live and local, with coverage you can count on. This is WNEM-TV5 News at 6.
Our overriding goal is to stop the spread of the virus and to help all Americans who have been impacted by this.
President Donald Trump declaring a national emergency in response to the coronavirus crisis. Good evening, everyone. I'm David Custer. Meg is off. The president making the declaration this afternoon to free up billions in disaster relief for states and announcing measures to speed up coronavirus testing.
We're announcing a new partnership with private sector to vastly increase and accelerate our capacity to test for the coronavirus.
The Speaker of the House promising to pass a bill to pay for testing for anyone who needs it. The crisis reaching the top of the world, with Nepal shutting down all expeditions on Mount Everest for the rest of the climbing season. NASCAR taking to Twitter, postponing this weekend's race in Atlanta and next weekend's event in Miami. The Boston Marathon also postponed. The iconic race moved from April 20th to mid-September. In Michigan, 4 more confirmed cases of coronavirus, bringing its total to 16. The Secretary of State saying all visits must be by appointment only. The Archdiocese of Detroit suspending Mass. Dow Diamond canceling all events beginning Monday. And with schools closed through early April, parents tell TV5's Rachel McCrary they're scrambling to find childcare.
With young kids in school, you know, and you're working, it throws a wrench into it when you suddenly can't send them to school, and then especially over a prolonged period of time.
It's a mad dash to find childcare for students across the state, as the governor last night ordered all schools to close until April 6th. Patrick Hayes has 2 kids in Davison Community Schools, and today he had to bring his children to work with him until he could arrange for his mother to stop in and watch them. But that brings up another concern, because coronavirus tends to affect older people more severely.
So we've talked about, you know, when you're hanging out with grandma and grandpa, you know, make sure you're washing your hands, make sure that you're, you know, if you have to cough, you're covering your mouth.
Other parents in Davison know all too well what it's like to scramble to find somewhere for your kids to go, like Sarah White.
I mean, it can feel at the time like a little helpless, because you got to get to work, because you got to make the money.
White is fortunate because her children are old enough to not need a babysitter, but she says she can relate to what many parents in the state are going through.
It's always a little nerve-wracking and adding stress to an already stressful situation.
Hayes says since Davison schools are on a balanced calendar, his children are used to extended breaks, but he knows that they're going to be ready to go back once the closure is lifted.
They're going to be excited to get back and see their friends, and you know, there will be things like that they miss out on.
In Davison, Rachel McCrary, WNEM-TV5.
Brooklyn Boys Pizzeria in Bay City making sure kids home from school don't go hungry by offering them meals of pizza for free. The owner telling TV5 he gets it because he's a parent of 3.
It just seemed like a natural thing to me to reach out and say, hey, you know what, if you have kids that are home today and you can't feed them, why don't you let me go ahead and do that for you?
He'll offer the free pizza Monday through Friday from noon until 1, though he says he's flexible if parents call ahead. The crisis prompting hospitals to enact emergency plans. McLaren Bay region limiting visitors to 1 per patient, and it has to be the patient's primary partner. Mid-Michigan Health in Midland setting up a testing tent as part of its protocol. Anyone who shows up worried they have coronavirus will be taken to this tent to keep them away from other patients and staff.
A nurse triages you, documents your complaint. We then feed that information to the providers, and the providers determine the course of treatment.
14 patients were seen in the blue tent Thursday. 2 are being tested for COVID-19. The rest were ruled out. Preventing hospitals from being overwhelmed by patients is the goal of all of these cancellations that keep coming in. Authorities are trying to prevent a spike by flattening the curve, as they call it. TV5's James Felton explains.
All these measures are really about what we talk a lot about, flattening the curve.
Flattening the curve, a phrase medical professionals like Dr. Michael Yagi, Director of Emergency Services at Hurley Medical Center, are talking about these days. As the coronavirus spreads, national, state, and local leaders are trying to mitigate its impact, all in an effort to make sure our healthcare system isn't overrun with sick patients.
So instead of in the first week you get this big peak, a surge of disease burden and people running to the ERs and everywhere, you flatten it out. It doesn't mean that your end number, the total number of people getting sick at the end of the year or the month, is any different. The goal is to bring it out nice and flat, or flatten it out, I should say, so that we can handle the disease, the surge, and we have the capacity to do so.
Dr. Lydia Watson is the Senior Vice President and Chief Medical Officer for Mid-Michigan Health. She says all the closings and cancellations announced this week is the best way to reduce the reach of COVID-19.
Based on the history of viral pandemics, we know that if we keep people further apart, that we're less likely to spread it. We may get it under control, and then that steep incline of the curve will start to plateau and then hopefully fall.
Watson tells us we must all do our part to get through this pandemic. In the meantime, she says her hospital is doing everything it can to be ready.
We're developing backup plans to be able to have still the resources to take care of the community.
Reporting in Genesee and Midland counties, James Felton, WNEM-TV5.
Criminal justice authorities announcing steps to reduce the risk of spreading the virus. At least 2 mid-Michigan jails in Saginaw and Tuscola counties closed to the public for at least 3 weeks. TV5's Jonathan Jackson reports courts are clearing the decks for the time being as well.
Court systems across the nation are taking immediate action to stop the spread of coronavirus, including here in mid-Michigan.
We have a responsibility to prevent the spreading of the virus.
Today, Saginaw County Chief Judge Darnell Jackson announcing the start of a 14-point plan to protect their employees and the public during the next few weeks.
More than 1,000 people a day come in and out of the court system on any given day. And we can reduce that number just by changing how we operate in the court system.
Judge Jackson tells us that while the courts will remain open, some changes will be happening inside their courts. Those changes include the following. All jury trials in all courts will be adjourned until April 13th. All civil cases and hearings with vulnerable persons may be postponed upon request. All non-custody cause hearings, settlement conferences, and custody parenting time investigations will be postponed and rescheduled in May. And criminal defendants not in custody may have hearings postponed upon request. And it's not just Saginaw County, but Genesee County District Court is also making the following changes by adjourning all scheduled jury trials, misdemeanor pretrials, non-jury general civil trials, and small claims and show cause hearings until after May 1st. And Judge Jackson says while these changes are temporary, they will continue to monitor the situation in case more are necessary.
We've met with members of the health department, we met with members of law enforcement, and we will continue to work with all other departments in the county to make sure our citizens are as safe as possible.
In Saginaw, Jonathan Jackson, WNEM-TV5.
The State Department of Corrections ending all in-person visits of prisoners, no length of time given. Federal prisons also halting visits for 30 days. A live look now over Bay City and Saginaw. It's windy and it's going to get chilly tonight. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Brian Bachman in the First Warn 5 Weather Center. Hi, Brian.
Hi there, David. Taking a few steps back tonight and into the weekend from those nice warm temperatures that we saw earlier on in the week, but that does not mean it's going to be a bad weekend by any stretch. In the meantime, however, with the windy conditions still coming in out of the west, we do still have a lakeshore flood advisory in effect for Tuscola and Huron counties until 10 p.m. Of course, that due to the high wave action, high water levels being pushed inland, and also the threat of beach erosion there. Easy to see why. Take a look at the winds, just the gusts alone across most of mid-Michigan this evening, up over 30 miles per hour. We're gusting to 33 in Saginaw, a 36-mile-per-hour wind gust in the Escoda area, and many other locations, Thumb and inland, seeing similar readings. As for the temperatures out there tonight, most of those quite a bit cooler than they've been in recent days, generally hovering in the low 40s in many locations, but a few spots like Bay City, West Branch, Houghton Lake, Mount Pleasant as well in the middle to upper 30s right now. But of course, with it being chillier and you add the winds, there's a notable wind chill in play tonight. Most of us feeling more like the low 30s, if not even some middle and upper 20s. So make sure you dress warmly on your way out this evening. Outside of that, it is quiet on the First Warn 5 Sky Tracker. We'll see a general increase in the clouds throughout the overnight period, but no rain expected as we look ahead to tomorrow. So on your way out the door this evening, just make sure you're dressed warmly. We'll see partly cloudy skies and breezy conditions falling into the 30s temperature-wise. I'll have your full weekend forecast coming up.
Brian, thank you. Still ahead, a special place for cats with special needs. We take you inside Mid-Michigan's newest cattery. And the charges continue to mount for singer R. Kelly. That's next. You're watching TV5 News at 6, serving Buena Vista, Flushing, and Williams Townships in your hometown, too. We'll be right back.